Thanks for staying with us. So our hot topic today is about Osinachi's death. So Justice Nwosu-Iheme of an FCT High Court, Wuse Zone in Abuja, on Monday sentenced the husband of the late gospel singer Osinachi, Peter Nwachukwu, to death by hanging. Nwachukwu was found guilty of culpable homicide resulting in the death of the deceased on April 8th. The judge held that the prosecution had proven the burden of proof placed on it by the law and subsequently found the defendant guilty. It will be recalled that we discussed this story back then with the judgment. We want to revisit it and even hear your thoughts on the judgment and hopefully discuss other things relating to this issue of domestic violence. You can call us on 020-1635-2013, 090-241-63440. You can also send us your thoughts on X and also on YouTube. We'll be happy to read your thoughts, read your views. So, according to the judgment, so Mr. Nwachukwu was found guilty of culpable homicide, with the court adjudging him to the cause of death of the deceased on April 8th, which is what we're talking about, if his actions actually led to her death on April 8th, 2022. Mr. Nwachukwu was arraigned and on 23 charges, as YK said earlier, including culpable homicide, punishable with death. Other charges include criminal intimidation, cruelty to children, criminal intimidation of children, and spousal battery. So, I mean, and just like YK also said, during the trial, the prosecution had given 17 witnesses, including the 2 children of the late gospel singer, who testified as 4th prosecution and 5th prosecution witnesses. Now, this is a really, really painful story, especially when you have your children testifying against you. And one of the reasons why it's important to have these conversations, because there are lots of Osinachis right now that are in their homes and they are hoping that things will change, or they're thinking that they're expected to stay. But let's talk first about the judgment, and then we'll talk about the other Osinachis who may be watching. What are your own thoughts on the judgment? Because I've seen comments saying it was a bit too harsh, or they should have given him a life sentence instead of a death penalty. Although he still has the opportunity to appeal, he might get a better judgment at the higher courts. But as of now, it's still death by hanging. Do you think that was a bit harsh, or do you think they should have given him life imprisonment because of his children, so at least his children can know that his daddy is there and they can go and visit him at least? So if you take the mother is dead, father dead, people are thinking, okay, you've taken both parents from the children. Would you like to
Sadly, when domestic violence is involved, one of the likely consequences is that there will be no parents for the product of that marriage, which is why they advise leave, and people still think it's harsh to say so. One of the consequences what we are dealing with now, one of the parties of the marriage is dead. One of the parties of the marriage is dead again because he's guilty of, having murdered or led to the death of one of them. So in any of the circumstances, when 2 people are marrying, just so that we'll put it out there, if you're looking to marry someone today, be considering that if this were your circumstance, your children will be orphans from the one it starts to happen. Because if you either don't leave to prevent it or curb it in one way or the other, this is the outcome. There's no way. If the father had gotten a life sentence, he go spend them for somewhere now. The kids will have to go through some form of therapy, help, psychological, whatever. Yes, to get through it. They will need foster care. They will be parented by distant relatives, close relative, whatever, but it will certainly not be him. He wasn't even fit a parent in the first place to love his partner, who was also a parent, or at least respect the partner. You don't have to love her, because some marriages are loveless, but at least there will be regard, respect for the sake of the children. They'll say, you don't talk to the mother of your children publicly like that. Some people say, hey, she's my wife, I married her, but she's now the mother of your kids. The kids are watching. The lack of control of your emotions, your temper and all of that, or your total abashed nature of doing things, I no go agree, can actually lead to this and destroy the lives of the children. So a violent partner is a violent parent and an unfit one.
So let me come to you.
So for me, I don't think the judgment was harsh. I think this would serve as deterrence to a lot of abusers out there who will know that one day there will be a day of reckoning, and it can go anyway. You can end up being jailed for life. You can end up being sentenced to die by hanging. You can end up anyhow. So before you think of raising your hands to hit another person's child, think through the consequences. If this is found in how many years, if they give me the punishment that is supposed to come to me, would I like it? That's one. Secondly, abusers have no mercy. I've seen abusers one-on-one, and I know that there's no form of empathy in their mind. And when we always say, let's stay because of the children, I worry, because at the end of the day, we end up raising children that are damaged, children who will now become adults and start healing their trauma, start doing therapy. Many of them will now toe either of the parents' paths. Either they are becoming abusers themselves, or they're attracting partners who will further abuse them, because that's what their subconscious is already used to. So we could have said, they've lost one parent, they should not lose another parent. They may have that parent there, but it's safer for them to be away from that parent. So at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose situation for everybody, especially the children. I'm more concerned about what the children are doing right now. What are they going through right now? What sort of emotional support do they have? I'm hoping that they have family members who understand some of these things, who would now take them to therapy, who will show them love, the love that they are not used to. Imagine being in an abusive home, and I don't know if anybody has really experienced it. You walk on eggshells. As a child, you have so much fear because your primary caregivers are at each other every 2 minutes. Something triggers, and people are throwing books, people are throwing cups, people are throwing, carrying knives. You see that firsthand, and it damages your psyche as a child. So if they can take you away from that situation, whether the parents sort out themselves or not, we should be focusing on the children at the moment, because the parents are adults, they have made their decisions, they have chosen to live by their decisions. Unfortunately, somebody had to die for people's eyes to be open. So I don't think the judgment is too harsh. It's small, so that people will know that if I choose to be an abuser, because the truth of the matter is, even abusers don't abuse everybody. They look face. They look face. So you come into a marriage and they look at you like your family cannot stand up for you. Then they capitalize on it. If they know that you have a strong backbone, and once you raise they look face. I've seen abusers who have treated different wives differently, depending on where the wives are coming from. So if they know that Nigeria is getting to a point where they catch you, and let me also add this. Some people said the cause of death. Anything can cause a woman or a man in an abusive relationship to come down with diseases they are not naturally supposed to come down with. Because when your hormonal system is constantly trying to protect you, it stops healing itself. I had a conversation one time when I was doing my podcast with a woman who left an abusive marriage. And she said she had developed, cancer somewhere here. Okay. Yes. It was deep. They had to go to the hospital. They were looking for causes. Do you know that they had to operate her several times? When she finally got the confidence to leave the marriage, that sickness subsided. Everything just left. Her body started reactivating back to normal. So we always feel it's physical. Everything should be physical. Yeah. It's not physical. It goes way beyond the physical into the sort of sicknesses that you now begin to have as someone who is the abused in a marriage. So whether we can trace it with medicine immediately, that is this one that caused the death or this one did not cause the death, the fact that she was under a toxic relationship for how many years could have caused any sickness to start manifesting.
Yeah, Waike, what are your thoughts on the sentence especially?
On the sentence, well, I'm not an advocate for the death sentence. So I would have genuinely preferred a life sentence. I mean, let him rot in jail. Because first and foremost, death might be too easy. With life, that punishment, he will suffer it till he dies. Because he will be there. And he will have
time to think of
time to think of what he did and how he did it. And then also suffer in the jail.
Yeah.
That's
one way of looking at it, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then, he was obviously an evil man, or had been abused himself in a previous life. I don't know. I'm not. a psychologist. I'm not ready to delve
Yeah.
into what was
Yeah.
going on with him mentally. But I have to just say that women, please, if you are being abused, leave.
Okay, we'll come to that. We'll come to that conversation after the break. We'll talk on to stay or not to stay, to leave or not to leave. That's the conversation we're going to have after the break. Stay with us.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.